Greetings, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all you other digital people. This is Satek Ananda, and I'm here with my most beautiful of all friends, Essence. How do you say your last name? Mikado. And this is the Archetype Journey Step 1, okay? Now, this is not like, okay, here's a product and you're gonna go through this process and do it, because the product doesn't exist yet. But I did buy the URL, Archetype Game, and I have begun laying out the process of what this is gonna be. And Essence had just come over to, we're just gonna jam, we're gonna hang out, we're maybe gonna make some music or something. And we both started talking about our lives, and the idea of archetypes came up really specifically for both of us. I was talking about my relationship with my closest friend in the world, my better half, and companion and dance partner and business partner and all of these various roles that you could call it. And you were talking about and what would you call your beau? How would you?
How would you call your boo?
How would you call your boo? What's your boo?
What's your boo?
How you call it?
We actually came up with the name Divine Lover.
Divine Lover. I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that. Even though you guys have not consummated any love yet, mm-hmm. Am I correct?
Yes.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's because of long distance?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But not just because of long distance.
Tell me more.
Tell you more. Well, I guess I'd start with the reason why we use the term Divine Lover, which for us, we have the understanding and like the mutual acknowledgement that you can find Divine Lover, almost like Divine Lover is its own energy that exists within all things. I am just as much the Divine Lover as he is the Divine Lover, you know? You can find Divine Lover in the air. Like whenever a breeze hits your face and it's cool and it's refreshing, that's the Divine Lover sending you that, you know? So the Divine Lover exists within all things. I feel like as far as what you need to give and to receive in that moment and share with a person in order for your souls to evolve at whichever way that you will, that person is like the embodiment of that Divine Lover in that moment. So we look at each other and we see, you're my match in this moment. Like, so that's why I say Divine Lover to him, mm-hmm. you know? As far as making love, I feel like, and we both have the understanding that it's so much deeper than our society gives it credit. Like it's transformative, you know? In the same way that like most people think about like psychedelics or something before they take them because they know that they're going to be changed after that experience, like sexual experience is the same. And in my opinion, a lot of the ways it mimics the psychedelic experience, mm-hmm. you know?
I've never heard that before, but yeah, I like that.
Like, what is it? Somebody told me that they call it, what is it, le petit mort, like the little death in mm-hmm. France. Like, you are dying in a way, you know, there is a death and a rebirth that happens when you share and whenever you love someone, you know? And
supposedly your heart stops during a sneeze. So it might stop during an orgasm too.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, there's reasons these symbols get thrown about, right? And speaking of symbols, that's the whole point of the archetypes, right?
Yeah.
You were describing patterns about yourself and your boo.
Mm-hmm.
And I love your description of Divine Lover, and it matches perfectly with New Paradigm Love, which is what the Moonflower and I came up with to describe our tantric connection. Mm-hmm. So I love that name. That's beautiful. And I love the parameters of it. And I look forward to hearing more of what you discover about the archetype of that mm-hmm. relationship. You were talking symbolically about patterns in your boo and yourself. Mm-hmm. And you said, what was it? Algorithms
of the mind.
Algorithms of the mind. Mm-hmm. And like that hit me really hard because as you said it, I felt like that's what archetypes are. They're algorithms, they're patterns, they're characters. And we literally interface with the world through those patterns, through those algorithms. They're like masks, and we communicate with everything underneath the mask. Like we have all our clothes, right, to protect us from the external weather and perceptions. You know, it's literally a layer of skin of protection. That's what the archetypes are. They're layers of the ego. And as you were talking about it, I could feel the lessons you were learning about yourself, and you were speaking in terms of lessons that you could feel you still haven't finished learning, right? Like you're still learning now from your trip to Connecticut months ago, right? So I told her briefly about the archetype journey, but not really. Instead, I got my archetype cards and I let her run through the deck really quick. And she picked how many?
Like 14?
No, it was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Something like that. And you did it faster than anybody I've ever seen pick.
Really?
Like, yeah, and I don't know if it's because you knew we needed to shoot a show and it can only last for so long because I have Nancy at 5:15. So we have a limited amount of time for the show. I always go on way too long and we can't this time, so I got my eye on the clock. You picked them as she was like, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope. And yeah, make sure they're all right set up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is this is step one of the archetype journey, and this is a process that I'm actively codifying right now. I've done a lot of work with the archetypes in various forms of healing and personal development, but I really wanted to have a book and a game, like a process, like Pictionary, right? Maybe not a board game like Life, although that would be kind of cool. The archetype journey board game. Maybe not that, but it would start as a book, and then I saw it as like a Pictionary type of game, or like a charades type of game where you interactively play it in a social environment. And so I'm just beginning to figure out the parameters of it. So thank you for your openness and willingness to play my silly game. So what we're going to do is step one is you have to actually pick your archetype. So without really talking or much about what archetypes are or what we're going to do with them or whatever, I just let her pick the frequencies, the stories, the algorithms that she was most connected to. And so now I want you to show us each one. And when you show us that archetype, you can read us the light and the shadow attribute, because every archetype has a light characteristic and a shadow characteristic, right? We all have shadows. We all have a dark side. Then I want you to tell me how you know that's one of your archetypes. Does that make sense? So at what point in your life did you know this was one of your masks?
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rocket. What's your first one?
Slave.
Put it closer. Yeah, there we go. Slave. What's the light attribute?
Surrendering your power of choice to the divine with complete trust. And the shadow is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear of making your own choices.
So how do you know that you're connected to the slave archetype?
I just figured that out.
Tell us about it.
That was a really liberating idea or experience that I went through coming back from Connecticut. Was I realized that I can be a giving person, but like the shadow here is giving your willpower to an external authority out of fear, you know? It wasn't so much as fear of making my own choices rather than fear of causing conflict with another person,
right.
You know? And so I realized that I was putting myself in this enslavement mentality. And
right.
So I just overcame that one.
Awesome. Nice. Ding, ding, ding,
Ding,
ding. Pass to go.
So do I go to this one now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Next one.
Storyteller. Oy.
All right. And what's the light characteristic?
Ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols.
Beautiful. And you're one of the best writers I've ever met.
Thank you. Shadow attribute is making up tales that harm other people.
Voodoo.
Voodoo.
Voodoo, that voodoo. Awesome. So how do you know you're a storyteller?
I think I've known that I was a storyteller maybe from middle school, because I feel like that's whenever I had acquired enough stories to tell someone, you know? And I
right. Takes a little while to gather
It takes
up
a while
some
to get some
information.
stories. But because of the things that I had went through in that small amount of time, I noticed that my stories had power whenever I gave them to people.
Mm-hmm.
And the power was neutral. It could either overwhelm someone, or it could make someone feel really good. Or if the story wasn't true, because of the way that it's worded, like once you know where to put certain words to catalyze certain parts of the heart,
Mm-hmm.
like you have to be careful with that, because it's medicinal and it can kill someone if you're not careful.
Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy. And the Moonflower will have some things very specifically connected to that to talk to you about, because she has noticed that in her own process very recently.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Number 2. That's number 2. Number 3.
Poet. Can't you see it? Poet.
All right. Light attribute.
Expresses soul insights in symbolic language.
Mm-hmm.
And shadow attribute is turns a lyric gift to negative or destructive effect. So language, for me, I feel like I see things happen and then I express them.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually talking the other day about how whenever I perceive or I'm thinking about something, I'll see it in shapes first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have to distill that into language. And so I feel like the power of words, like I said, is they catalyze a person's, you can want to call them chakras, but I mean all of these different points in your soul can be catalyzed with different words, you know? And depending upon the vibration of each word, you can deliver a message that even has a deeper hidden meaning in it, that it will be delivered like a time capsule, you know? So you have to be careful with the words that you use.
Yes, very similar lesson to storyteller. So what's the difference between the storyteller and the poet?
I feel like the poet, everyone has something to say. You know, everyone has their own unique gift of perception. Like nobody else's perception is going to match yours. So I feel like the poet expresses everything. It's like an art form. It's like artistic, you know? I feel like the poet is within the storyteller, but the storyteller doesn't necessarily have to be within the poet, you know?
I would agree completely.
Yeah?
I would agree completely. And here's kind of the difference for me, because I'm a storyteller and
Mm-hmm.
a poet also. And the difference for me is storytelling tends to be a very literal and linear process of moving from one place to another. So nobody argues about what happened in The Three Little Pigs, right? It's a story. It's a story. But a poem by nature is written to be decipherable in many different ways. A poem is written as a symbolic form, specifically so that each person that comes to it gets their own story from it, gets their own meaning.
I like that.
So it's like encoded. It's encoded symbolism, as opposed to A plus B equals C leads to there, and then everybody's happy. You know.
Nice.
Awesome. Great distinction.
Thank you.
Number 4.
Did I? Oh yeah, I guess I did that in my scribe.
Scribe. What's the light
The
aspect?
scribe. Preserving knowledge and information. Shadow attribute. Altering facts or plagiarizing others' work. I feel like the scribe is so close to the storyteller, which is so close to the poet. You know, I feel like
It's very closely related.
They're close.
What's the difference?
The sake of keeping knowledge.
Records.
Yeah, like I realize how much this is important through my own family, like my biological family. because I'm adopted. And so they kept a very close account of everything that had ever happened in their family. And so whenever I needed emotional information, you know, factual, like actual information, like whenever I needed answers or to look at the algorithms of my family, I was able to do that, you know?
Nice, nice. That's powerful to have that.
Yeah. Wait, which number is this?
5.
5, right?
Yep.
Cool. Student.
Light attribute, and we got to hurry because we got like less than 15 minutes.
All right. Humility and devotion to knowledge, openness to lifelong learning. Shadow is arrogance in the pursuit of destructive knowledge, unwillingness to translate knowledge into action.
And how do you know you're a student?
I've always had a really deep longing to devote myself towards learning. You know, like remember the tattoo on the back of my neck, truth, and I told you about that. Like finding the truth was the #1 mission,
right?
And whatever it was, I had to deal with that. But yeah, I've always kind of known that the student was something that I would be.
Nice. Number 6.
Alchemist.
Alchemist, hell yeah.
Light attribute, transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. Shadow attribute, misuse of the power and knowledge that comes through spiritual practice. Alchemist, because I guess everything that I learned as a student, I want to use it for something.
Right, you want to transform things.
Yeah, I want to do things with it. I want to do things with like my body, get it up to par. I want to get my mind up to par. Like there's just so many different ways that you can alchemize yourself.
You used that word in your song. Too.
Ah.
And I caught it and I was like, that's a great word. That's a great word. And I can't wait to hear more of your songs.
Definitely.
And maybe we can make one before you go tonight.
Yeah. I was about to say I have one.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you have the melody for it too?
Mm-hmm.
And does it need instruments or is it a hummy-dummy kind of melody? Vocal looping or are you going to need instrumentation?
You could vocal loop that.
Okay. Awesome. Let's do it. That keeps everything simpler.
Right?
And just raw. I like it. Awesome. Okay. So this is 7.
Child eternal.
Yep.
Light attributes, determination to remain young in body, mind, and spirit, ability to see things with fresh eyes. Shadow attributes, inability to grow up and be responsible, extreme dependency on others for physical security. I remember being scared as a kid and then like, grow up, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. And I made myself a promise that I would never sell out in that way,
right.
You know? I noticed the shadow aspects of myself with that too. Like it is a responsibility, it is a sustainability thing, you know?
Right.
So I've had to grow up, but at least I've grown up maybe from like age 8 to like 13.
Yeah, no, I'm still like mid-teen.
Right?
And Eternal Child is the Peter Pan. Like that's
right.
That character. And totally I have the archetype also. All right, next we're entering into the speed round. Magical Child.
Magical Child. Light attributes, seeing the potential for sacred beauty in all things, the belief that everything is possible. Shadow, pessimism, depression, and disbelief in miracles, believing that energy and action are not required for growth. One of the things that I wanted to maintain about myself and understanding about myself was that I did believe that anything was possible when I was little. And so I wanted to keep that because I felt like if I kept that, then the child eternal would manifest from that.
Right. Nice.
Child orphan.
Aha.
Aha.
wonder where that one
I don't know. Light attributes independence based on learning to go it alone, conquering fear of surviving. Shadow attributes feelings of abandonment that stifle maturation. Maturation. Seeking inappropriate surrogate families. Well, I am an orphan, or I used to be one. So that's where
Once upon a time.
That's where that came from. You know, all throughout my life, I've had to go through different stages and depths of feeling abandoned. And now that I feel like my validity comes from the fact that I do exist rather than how I got here, I feel a lot better.
Booyah.
Booyah.
Great way to put it.
Queen.
Mm.
Light attributes, radiates the regal feminine, uses her benevolent authority to protect others. Shadow attributes, becomes arrogant when authority is challenged, controlling and demanding. I was afraid to embody that because of the shadow aspect. It's like, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
But did I ever tell you about the I am power?
I don't know.
So I was really nervous, and I felt this archetype like knocking at my door one day whenever I was meditating. And it said, I demand you to say, I am power. And so I said, no, I believe in power. And said, no, say, I am power. And so I said, I am power. And then she's like, great, now say it 5 times. And I said, I am power, I am power, I am power, I am power, I am power. And then she's like, there you go. And then she's like, I am power. And she's like, that's the whole point of I am power. And I was like, oh. And so that was my stepping into my queen without fear of the shadow.
If only everyone could have a dialogue that clear. With archetypes, like, it would be a much happier planet.
Teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Light attribute, ability to communicate knowledge, experience, skill, or wisdom. And shadow attributes, manipulating or abusing students, teaching negative traits and destructive skills. I feel like the communication is what was given to me later on. I wasn't always able, I don't think, to articulate myself, but once I was able to articulate myself, I felt like, and noticing, like you said, the patterns and the archetypes and things like that, like, I feel like that sets the stage to becoming a good teacher whenever you can see different people and identify them. So I feel like I'm learning to embody this. Like, the teacher is still very much a archetype that I'm working with rather than one that I'm necessarily embodying quite yet.
Got you. Nice. You're still busy being a student.
Yep. The destroyer.
Holly.
Heckle. Light attributes, releasing what is potentially destructive, preparing for new life. Shadow, intoxication with destructive power. Destroying others' dreams or potential. I'm definitely this card.
You know.
Do I have to?
You have to. You agreed to play the game. You can't play Monopoly and not go to jail. You agreed to play the game.
So, my lover calls me the Reaper sometimes because he's like, gosh, you're like obsessed with death and rebirth. And I feel like whenever I see something that needs to be eliminated and needs to be transformed, like, there's no time for it to be here. Like, in the time that we procrastinate with our inner work, that could be time spent going through the fires of hell and then coming back. And now we're better. And we just did all that shit yesterday.
And we just did all that shit yesterday. Like, look at that. Like, wow. I forgive you, Mom. I love you. Wow.
There you go.
Is that even possible? Yes, it is possible.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the moonflower definitely knows that one.
The destroyer.
Yes, and she is obsessed with death and will talk about it to no end. and talks about water rebirthing ceremonies more than anyone I've ever met. So yeah, you guys should chat.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There you
Warrior,
go.
definitely.
Warrior. Light attributes: strength, skill, discipline, and toughness of will. Heroism, stoicism, and self-sacrifice and conquering the ego. Shadow attributes: trading ethical principles for victory at any cost. Indifference to the suffering inflicted on others. I didn't always identify with the warrior energy unless I saw someone getting messed with. So I guess my definition of what society had told me a warrior was versus what I felt a warrior was different. Like I felt like a warrior was to defend something, not just for like the sake of fighting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The first time I felt like a warrior, these people were picking on this tree and they were snapping the branches off it, and I was on safety patrol. I went over there with my sash and I was like, the destroyer. So my warrior, I feel like, comes from the unconditional love that I have for something that's not supposed to be picked on.
Mm-hmm. I've heard you tell a few of those kinds of stories.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah. Standing up for the little guy. Healer. Definitely.
Light attributes: passion to serve others by repairing the body, mind, and spirit. Ability to help transform pain into healing. Shadow attributes: taking advantage of those who need help, failing to care for oneself. I've definitely felt both of those, you know? To be honest, I felt the light attribute a lot because I feel like, especially if you're going to be that much into the destroyer energy, the least you could do is know how to heal someone, you know?
There you go. That's a good way to put it. If you're going to break them down, at least learn how to help them put it back together.
Back together
It's
again.
a really good mantra for either side.
And I felt the shadow attribute. There have been moments when I have had to look within myself and ask myself, what are my motives for wanting to heal someone, and if they're selfish or not, as well as failing to care for myself whenever I need like rejuvenation or rest or even like mental rest.
Right.
You know?
Awesome. 3 more.
The mother. Light attributes: nurturance, patience, unconditional love, joy in giving birth to life. And the shadow attributes: smothering or abandoning children, instilling guilt in children for becoming independent. I feel like I have a very maternal quality about myself, and whenever I was in Connecticut and I was a nanny up there, like I felt this maternal instinct about myself, like being summoned in order to like care for this child the correct way, you know? So I definitely remember my own children, even though they're not born yet, and I love them like they were here. The shadow.
That's an awesome way of saying that. Remember my own children, even though they're not born yet.
I do. And the shadow attributes, like, I feel like I don't believe that I'm ever like smothering, but you have to be careful about that with the destroyer energy. Like I said, you have to constantly check with the healing or the shadow aspect of the healer. Is that coming from the correct place? I feel like if it's always balanced and always for their highest good and whatever they need to receive in that moment, and that can be mother too, that it's going to be the correct medicine. But if you're giving it to them because you want them to change or you want a situation to change, then that's where it becomes the shadow of smothering instead of protecting, you know, or abandoning or something like that.
Exactly what you mean. And Moonflower will, of course, need to look at that card really deep too, do a meditation, water rebirthing ceremony just on that card alone. Booyah.
Goddess! Pachow! Pachow. Light attribute: the feminine expressed through wisdom, nature, life force, and sensuality. Shadow attribute: exploitation of the female nature and form. I didn't even read that. Like I just read The Shadow and I was like, how dare someone?
Uh-oh.
How dare someone? I definitely feel all of the light attributes. I do feel really connected to nature, even though I feel like nature is just as much masculine as it is feminine.
Mm-hmm.
The sensuality is something that I've been tapping to, even though I've been celibate for a really long time now. You know?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's life-changing.
Yeah. And I've recognized that the goddess has her own style of sensuality, and it within itself is alchemy. You know? It's so transformative whenever it comes from this place. The shadow attribute, the exploitation of the female nature and form, God. Like, all of the things that make her powerful, whatever they're expressed in a lower way, they'll still work. They'll still be just as efficient because it's such a powerful thing to draw from. But you can do a lot of destruction with the goddess energy too, you know? And it can be expressed in a really unbalanced way. You know, I feel like there's a positive and a negative aspect of being a goddess that a lot of people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm. Totally, well put.
And
Last
the
one.
angel.
Angel.
Light attribute, helping those in need with no expectation of return. And shadow attributes, acting innocent or angelic to mislead others, falsely claiming to be in touch with angelic guidance. That was one thing that my guides always warned me not to do, or they said they would stop talking to me. That was rule number one.
She got the hand from her guides.
Don't ever say something and say it was from us if you don't feel like it was divinely inspired. I mean, technically everything is divinely inspired because you are a reflection of the divine. But like they were like, you know what we mean. I was like, okay. So I definitely understand the shadow attribute, although honestly I'm too scared to try it. And the light attribute, I feel like being an angel, helping those in need with no expectation of return can come with like, you know, like financial. I feel like people always think about those type of things first, but it could be something like bumping into someone in the hallway and telling them something and they're like, oh, you know, like I feel like there are all of these messages that we're supposed to send to all of these different people. And even at work, like if I'm delivering messages to people that I feel like I should be throughout the day, I'm on divine assignment. I'm actually having a messenger bag and going into this place, and that's my divine assignment for that day. My job isn't whatever they say that my job is, you know?
Nice. Definitely sounds like an angel. All right. So that was awesome. That was awesome. And your grasp of the archetypes and what they represent is astounding. And I might need your help designing the game. So you pick 17. So we got to get your 17 down to 12. Okay. And so you can do that at your homework. Of those 17, we're going to get you down to 12. And then we'll be able to take step 2 of the journey. And by then, I will have figured out what step 2 of the journey actually is. Yeah. Right? So I'm basing this roughly on this book, Awakening the Heroes Within, 12 Archetypes to Help Us Find Ourselves and Transform Our World. I found this at the Moonflower's house in stacks and stacks of books, and this jumped out at me like, oh!
Like what?
Like, oh! This woman studied archetypes for 20 years and did her thesis on it. And this is the concept of archetypes based on the Joseph Campbell's Journey of a Thousand Faces, the hero's myth, like one of my favorite things, and every great story that Hollywood's ever told has used that journey of the hero. So this is my basis for this process, and we'll figure out what step 2 is next. And really what I would like your help with is the correct sequencing to take as we go into each one of these different archetypes and really look at the stories connected to them, so that we know everybody on the end. Because once again, I want this to be like a game, right? Like Pictionary, more than like a therapeutic process you're going to do in an office, and you're going to take notes and like this and this, and so it'll be all macabre. I want it to be a fun, enlightening, bam, and so we got to build to a crescendo. We got to have a climax and then like an ending. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to figure out this process while playing with people's archetypes. So thank you so much for your presence and your willingness to play, that awesome wisdom you have of your algorithms.
Thank you.
And we got to go. I got Nancy waiting for a body juggling bar session. And are you going to hang around and do that with us?
I might sit that one out only because I'm on the first day of my movie.
Oh my goodness. Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much. And thank you guys. And I'll see you in just a second, Nancy. Peace.